How you doing, guys? Some years ago, as I recall, I was fading. I was still a JW by name only. The congregation at that time didn't quite know where I stood. They didn't know what I knew. They didn't know what I didn't know. And for the most part, I really wasn't talking to too many of them at this time. So for the most part, I was moving around quietly under the cover of darkness. One night, I had gone to the corner store, and I had walked in, and the tension in there was thick. I looked at the cashier. The cashier was cowering in fear. It looked like there was a problem. And these two dirty, filthy-looking thugs looked like they had been arguing. Now, they didn't pay much attention to me coming in, but I did notice this one young blonde who had this look of fear in her eyes. Well, I pretended not to notice, but I started listening to these two bickering. Apparently, between the two of them, they were discussing which one of them was going to get her. Now, by the look on her face, she wasn't interested in either one of them. I went and grabbed my stuff, and I'm at the register. And now they're arguing which one was going to get her. Then it was which one was going to get her first and which was going to get sloppy seconds. Well, she started getting a little closer to me, so I says, "I'm leaving. Follow me out the door." Well, they were still arguing, so they didn't notice that she was following me out the door. By the time they did notice, we were already across the street and well on our way. And they're hurling every insult in the world at me. Oh, well, life's a bitch. This did not go unnoticed. Apparently, while we were walking down the street, a JW elder had driven by, and he recognized me. He mentioned it at the next meeting, and he said, "Well, what was going on? Who was that blonde?" And I said, "Well, I really don't know, just a girl in the neighborhood." And he said, "Well, what were you doing with her?" I said, "There was an issue at the store." So I told him what had happened. And I says, "I merely escorted her out of harm's way." And he says to me, he says, "Well, did you think if there was a problem to call the police?" And I says, "In all honesty, it would have taken a few minutes to call the police. In the meantime, problems could have gotten worse. It would have taken a few minutes. Dispatch would have been asking me a bunch of senseless questions, more time wasted, and then a few minutes to send a squad car to the area." So I says it was much simpler just to escort her out of harm's way. And he says, "Well, you kind of put yourself in a hazardous situation. Jehovah will protect his people, but not if they put themselves in harm's way." And I says, "Yes, I understand that, but I saw the situation. It was dangerous, so I simply escorted her out of the way and got her out of trouble." He says to me, "Well, isn't this what the police are for?" And I never forgot that phrase, and I remember that. He didn't think this is what the police are for. Well, now, at this time, I already knew about the child abuse issues. So he and I used to talk quite a bit, and I started asking about it. And he says, "Well, I don't think it's as bad as the media's letting up." And I'm like, a problem like this doesn't come up out of nowhere. There is a problem, obviously. And he says, "Well, we have to wait on Jehovah." And I'm like, even if it's within your power to do something about it, why wait? In the meantime, a child's life is being destroyed over and over and over. And in this case, many children are being destroyed over and over and over. And I says, "Why don't you call the police on this?" He says, "Well, we do our own investigation internally." And I'm like, "Dude, you people are not trained investigators." Then he proceeded to tell me, "Well, Watchtower has a legal department." And I'm like, "Yes, attorneys, not investigators." And he says, "Well, we just prefer not to let the outside world, and we prefer to do our own investigation." So I said to him, "Isn't this what the police are for?" He kind of knew where I was going with that, so he kind of circled around the answer. We argued over and over, and the whole thing was going in circles. And he couldn't understand what I was getting at. It's like, dude, if it's within somebody's power to put a stop to this, or at least slow it down, why would you do nothing about it? And he proceeded to tell me, "Well, we do. Watchtower does protect its children." And I'm like, "And exactly how do they do that? Because I'm not seeing it." This is pretty much where I let them know that I was not exactly backing Watchtower, so they decided I guess I was a danger to the organization, because I wasn't in the organization for much longer after that. And the subject about Jehovah protecting his people came up many times. And I said, well, it seems to me that Jehovah will protect his people, but he doesn't seem to want to protect the young ones from his own people. And he kind of got a little PO'd about that, but that's what it looks like. If Jehovah protects his people, why would he allow something like this to go on? Again, we don't understand. It's beyond our thinking. We have to wait on Jehovah. Bullshit. This could be handled so much differently. I mean, the Catholic Church handled it horribly. The Mormons handled it horribly. And obviously Watchtower is handling it just as bad, if not worse. But they couldn't seem to understand that. He just wanted to kind of reel me back in and get me into the thinking that we have to wait on Jehovah. And my thing is, you do whatever it takes to stop this. Because we're talking about young people. Their whole lives are destroyed after that. I don't want to hear Jehovah's going to fix everything. What's he doing now? Because it doesn't appear to me who's doing a damn thing. But in all honesty, it looks to me that Jehovah is an incompetent God. Yeah, he'll protect his own people, but the young people, they're on their own. And this is why, to this day, I can proudly say that I am no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much all I have for you today. Y'all have a good day. I'll be talking to you soon.